Hey, welcome back, Bears fans, and welcome to the CHGO Bears Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. And what is going on, everybody? It is Friday, the CHGO Audible Day. Will DeWitt, Nicholas Moreano here, excited for a jam-packed, I believe, episode full of Bears discussion for you. Nick, how's it going, man?
It's going good, Will. How are you? What plans do you have for this Memorial Day weekend?
It's all going to start after this show. I'm going to build the toddler a water table for outside. Got a nice little setup going, a little table that has water running through it. He's going to have a great time. And I personally am looking for some things to grill, maybe some ribs, maybe some steaks, maybe a little bit of both. How about you, man?
Yeah, that sounds like a great time, Will. For me, probably going to go hang out with some friends on Saturday. Then my brother actually just got back from Romania for 2 weeks. Yesterday, I picked him up from the airport. So hanging out with the family on Sunday and just having a relaxing weekend, as most people, I think, who are listening will do the same on this Memorial Day weekend.
One more 3-day weekend. We don't get a lot of them here at CHGO. There will be a show still on Monday, just not live, if I'm not mistaken, pre-recorded, right?
I believe that's how we're doing things.
I thought so. I just want to make sure. I want to make sure we set those proper expectations for everyone. But yes, it's going to be.
I'll actually jump in because y'all on the Bears channel, you guys already did. This is show number 6 this week.
That's right, because of OTAs.
MJ6. And so technically on Monday, there will not be any Bears show released.
See, and this is why you're here, because I would be talking incorrect facts, and we don't want that for anybody. But it makes sense that we do so much content.
Yeah,
we earn the day off, a true day off.
That's correct. But obviously, White Sox, Cubs, Bears, or Bulls and Blackhawks are all posting shows on Monday. We got some good ones. I did the Sox one. I'm about to do the Blackhawks one after this, so we'll see how it goes.
You're earning that day off too, Law. You got this. Yeah. You got this. All right, so we have a lot to get to here in today's show. We're going to predict which position groups we believe will have the best season. We're going to look at some different statistical categories, and we want to determine whether or not the Bears can maybe turn some of those around, like a first to worst or worst to first. Not completely, but just looking at the ones that either they succeeded in last year and may regress, or ones that they struggled in last year and we may find a lot of growth. And then towards the end of the show, we're going to share some and create some, I think, overreactions to the Bears OTAs the first week of it. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Before we get into that, I want to let everyone know, as Justin, that's actually Darnell now. You guys are changing it on me. Ooh. Darnell Mooney with the thumbs up on the bottom of the screen. Give this video a like as we go along. And Nick, when I woke up this morning, I saw an article on NFL.com that was like, hey, we're going to give you the most underrated player on every NFC team. And I was thinking, who would be underrated for the Bears? And I didn't really have a name that came to mind right away, but the article lists Jaquan Brisker as the most underrated Chicago Bear right now. And they reference some good stats about when throws were in his area. They were just way under expected for a completion rate. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I don't think it's really relevant right now, but I thought that was an interesting way to correlate and determine if he was the most underrated. I feel like there was a lot of love for him here in Chicago last year, with the understanding there's still room to grow. I didn't feel like he was undervalued or underappreciated in this context, but was there anyone else that would be, in your eyes, more underrated on this team?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, Will, because I feel like for the Bears, there's Jaquan Brisker is going to be one of the focal players for the Bears moving forward. But I could see why, the position and how that article is I think it was Cynthia Freeland, if I'm not mistaken, who wrote it. It's, you factor in the contracts into that, and obviously a rookie not making as much annually is going to be in there. But I'm thinking about underrated players that nobody's really talking about for the Bears in this 2023 season. Maybe we're looking at a Nate Davis would almost maybe be underrated, even though he's a big signing for the Bears, but he's an offensive lineman, right? And if we see some stability up front for the Bears there, that would be, a signing that obviously looks really good when maybe you're halfway through the season, Justin Fields is still upright, throwing passes, and the running game still looking effective, like that would be a good signing for the Bears. Or maybe someone like Deontay Foreman, right, on the 1-year deal here in Chicago and being productive in the rushing attack. But for me, I could see why Jaquan Brisker was the guy, and a strong safety, right? They're the furthest away from the football, but he's probably going to play more in the box and maybe don't get as much love. But those are two names just on offense that came to mind for, I guess, quote unquote, underrated players.
Right. DeMarcus Walker was one that came to me just because I feel like a lot of people were sleeping on him a bit. There's been with an offseason as busy as it's been, it's easy to overlook a signing and forget, oh yeah, this guy's here. And of course, his role being defined on the defensive front will be interesting with that inside out versatility. Gary Ross mentioned Jalen Jones, Josh Blackwell, underrated. Absolutely, going from undrafted free agents to both having to start at one point last year. I've been very vocal, at least during our content last season, that they were both very impressive considering how they kind of made their spots here on the team. I did see that Adam Schefter reported that DeAndre Hopkins has been released. Are you on the Hop train again, or are we good now? Has the Bears, did they do enough at wideout?
Yeah, I mean, previous to obviously the Bears getting DJ Moore, I was all for the Bears trying to make a trade or, to try to acquire a player like this. Now, it's kind of hard to say no to more weapons, but how would a DeAndre Hopkins, fit into this wide receiver room? Not that he can't, but it just seems like it's fair to say that the Bears are good at the wide receiver position, but I mean, I don't know. It's actually a good question. Well, would I want a DeAndre Hopkins in this Bears wide receiver room? Would Bears fans want it? Yes or no? In the comments here. But he has been released, and before the Bears made the DJ Moore trade, I was all for DeAndre Hopkins. Now it's a different story.
Bam! But if you have both, unfortunately, it would take away the share from some of the younger guys. Zarna Mooney would be someone highly affected by a signing like that. Same thing with Scott, who you just drafted. Chase Claypool with a big year. It would make that room so damn crowded, but also that's not a bad thing. I saw a comment here from Stephen D54. Trading for Hop, no, but signing him, I wouldn't hate it, right? Because you're not having to give away extra resources to bring him in. It's just purely financial, and we all know the Bears have a very good cap situation currently right now, so it would make fiscal sense. It's not the end of the world, but like you, Nick, I don't know. It could be fun, but it's not like the Bears would be. I don't want to say remiss for missing out on him, but I feel like he wants to go to someone who he believes can contend probably a little bit quicker than the Bears right now, with them being a year or so out from a true contending state.
I wonder, does DeAndre Hopkins, though, make the Bears more of a true contender? Yeah, so this is interesting now. And again, this year is all about knowing what Justin Fields is as a passer. DeAndre Hopkins is no doubt going to help that. It's a fascinating discussion to have, and Matt Nagy chimes in. Oh, like the Chiefs, that would be like a team that I could see DeAndre Hopkins going to, just adding to the weapons Mahomes can use. It's a very interesting conversation. I doubt the Bears actually make a move and go get Hopkins, but it's fun to talk about.
Ryan Poles will do his due diligence, though. And I don't think he would completely, not look at it, completely ignore it. But it will be interesting to find out where he lands here in the league. And we did start a YouTube poll here during the live show about D-Hop. So definitely throw your thoughts in that poll. We'll share those results later on in the show. That's fun. Didn't expect to have to talk about DeAndre Hopkins here today, but that's why I love live shows, news breaks, and you have to kind of adjust on the fly. But let's get into our planned segments and topics here for today. And the very first one that we wanted to look into is, now that the bulk of the work is done for this off season, OTAs has officially begun. What are the best positional groups on this team? I have an A and a B here. It looks like in the notes you had an A and a B as well. So what's your number one positional unit that you're yeah, they're the best?
Well, I'm just glad that we can actually have this discussion and have different groups to talk about, because last season it was not the case for the Bears. Like, what's the best position group? What's not the worst, maybe, as you can look at it. But now this season it's a little different with the talent that's been added here. But for me, my best position group that I'm looking at is the wide receiver room. And I know we're just talking about adding the possibility of DeAndre Hopkins, but looking at adding a DJ Moore, having a healthy Darnell Mooney, a Chase Claypool, who's now more familiar in the system, and pushing other guys down like Avalis Jones Jr., Tyler Scott, and Dante Pettis, Equanimous St. Brown. So you have a lot of guys in this room, and all of their production is going to be predicated to, what Justin Fields can do this season. And we're all expecting him to take a jump. So I like this room. I like the potential of this room, the flexibility that Luke Getsy can have moving these guys around on certain plays, and what each skill set for these guys, what they bring to a table. So the wide receiver for me is much improved, can be I think Luke Getsy, Andrew Janocka wanted to be more of a focal point in this offense.
Mm-hmm.
They have the guys, I think, that can make that happen. If all goes right, if Fields can take that step, that next jump in year 2.
I'm like pinching like my whole body right now, trying to figure out like, is this real life? Can the Bears' best, strongest positional group actually be wide receiver? The one that was the weakest link last year, the one throughout our entire lifetimes. It feels like the Bears have never been able to load up that room with a lot of talent outside of a couple of exceptions, a random season here or there. But for them, if they can live up to their potential, if they can be Justin Fields' best friends and really just take off this season, I think we're in for a very, honestly, just a treat of a year. Let's stick with this offense then. So this is technically like my second one, but we can stay on this side of the ball. I think running back may be better, Nick. Just looking at that room from top to bottom, everyone brings a little something different to the table. And this is a unit that really excites me. D'Onta Foreman, he's tied for 8th among running backs with 20 or more carries last year in terms of what was that shit? I put a number there and I forgot what it was.
The explosive plays? I know he had a bunch of explosive
that
plays.
That was it. Yards of 20 plus yard carries. There we go. I got so excited about that water table getting delivered. I didn't put that extra little note in there. No, I'm kidding, but I should have definitely read that a little bit differently. On top of that, too, 14th in the NFL with 4.4 yards per carry since 2021 of running backs with at least 12 or more carries per game over the past 2 seasons. That's more than Derrick Henry. That's more than Saquon Barkley, and that's right under Austin Eckler, Josh Jacobs, and Dalvin Cook. So he's in really good company there. We all know Khalil Herbert, 11th in the NFL with 5 yards per carry of backs with at least 5 carries per game since he entered the league 2 seasons ago. Again, a testament of the bang for his buck. He never gets the bulk of the carries, but when he does a lot of things well and makes a decent amount of plays. And then Roschon Johnson, too. 45% forced missed tackle rate over the last 2 years in college. That led all running backs in the country with at least 190 carries per PFF. Tristan Ebner, I know a lot of people are like already soured out. We've already added more running backs. I get it. But in terms of a receiver out of the backfield is still something he does most better than most guys right now on this roster. I just think this is a very well-rounded group. It's like you have a toolbox and you open it up and you can just say, okay, I want Herbert, or we need Rojo on this drive. They all can do something a little bit different, and that's going to help this entire offense. And again, I think the talent, whether it's the top 3, Rojo, Khalil Herbert, and Foreman, like that is a true 3-headed monster in the backfield.
Yeah, it's a good monster to have when especially you lose a guy like David Montgomery. You still add weapons at that position group, and the Bears are very successful at running the ball, and we'll actually talk about that later in the podcast. My 1B, I'll call it, is the cornerbacks room here, Will, and I know we had that brought up in our commenters here just a little bit ago, but when I look at that group, and I do expect Jalen Johnson to obviously be a part of that. I know he's not at OTAs yet, but you look at him, you look at Kyler Gordon getting better in year 2. Even a guy like Kendall Vildor just being a better football player, but also adding, Tyreek Stevenson, who I think will be the starting outside corner come week 1. But you add those guys in, Josh Blackwell, Jalen Jones, even a guy like Michael Ojemudia, just getting better in this system in year 2 now, like that's a good group to have. And we talked about this a lot. They had some success, without a good front 7 for the Bears, and that has been improved. Maybe not the edge rushers as much as we would have all liked to, but definitely the interior of that Bears defensive line, definitely the linebackers and their coverage capabilities. That's going to help the Bears secondary, knowing that you have coverage linebackers that can maybe do their assignment a little bit better than the group last year. So this Bears cornerbacks room, just with the improvements they're going to make individually, technique-wise, and what they can be capable of doing in, now year 2 with Eberflus and Allen Williams, I like the potential of that group, and they have some good guys that can, I think, make some noise in 2023.
For someone who said the secondary, the cornerbacks are like the strongest group, the best group, you're talking a lot about them linebackers, Nick, and that's leading right into my top position, which is linebacker. I think this unit, but not by far, but I think they are, at least to me, the cream of the crop on this roster. I really like TJ Edwards. I really, really like Tremaine Edmonds. I love that the Tremaine Edmonds thing, at least for me, came full circle. I was heading to Soldier Field. The Roquan debacle came out, and then I was thinking, like, well, if Roquan doesn't work out, who's available in this upcoming offseason? And then I saw Tremaine Edmonds, the other linebacker that was drafted early on in the same draft class. I was like, oh, he fits better in the Bears 4-3 scheme. Oh, he's someone who's going to play through his contract year and is not trying to hold out. And right now, I really appreciated that. And here he is. And he's had 210 combined tackles since 2021. If you look at Edwards, he's 9th in the NFL in combined tackles since then with 289. So over the last 2 seasons, the Bears starting linebackers, their Mike and their Will, literally have 500 combined tackles in 2 years. Like this, they're going to eat, Nick. They're going to eat within this defense. Edwards had 10 tackles for loss last year. Edmonds has 13 over his last 2 seasons. I mean, hell, Jack Sanborn, haven't mentioned him yet. The guy that really burst onto the scene last year for the Bears, he averaged like 9 tackles per game between weeks 9 through 13 before he got injured last year. So he is another player here that I really like for the Chicago Bears. And between all 3 starting linebacker spots, I think they're rock solid. They have youth. They have that veteran leadership. I mean, Edmonds, he's been in the league for 5 years and he's only 24. Like he's as old as some players who are being drafted right now with 5 years of NFL experience to draw off of. And I feel like he's just now going to hit his prime here with the Bears. So I'm really excited about that. I can probably keep rambling on and on about these linebackers, Nick, but I really believe they are the best unit on this team.
Yeah, Will, when you put that in our rundown here, I'm like, damn it, Will took the linebackers. And, that's a group that, look, free agency, that's where polls went right to, upgrading the linebacker position. And kind of going back to who's over or underrated, I feel like TJ Edwards kind of gets lost in the mix because Tremaine Edmonds is here, right? Like I think a lot of, and especially recently after the first OTA practice, like Tremaine Edmonds had a 100-yard pick 6. I don't know if he would have been tackled, but he made the headlines in OTAs. But like, I feel like he almost gets underrated, even though he was just playing the Super Bowl, right? On a obviously very good Eagles defense. But yeah, that room is going to be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to that production continuing now with the Bears and, just doing some really good things for Allen Williams and Eberflus.
And what I love about Edwards is the fact that he's grown into a top 10 linebacker in the NFL as someone who was undrafted, someone that had to fight tooth and nail for those opportunities. And when those situations arose where he had his number called, he made the most of them and kind of like never let go. And you need guys on this roster who have those sorts of capabilities. And again, Tremaine Edmonds, he's one of the best in the league too at linebacking, but he was like a very high first round pick. I don't remember if he was exactly in the top 10, but I remember he and Roquan are very, very close in that draft class. So again, you have guys have different paths to the same spot, and it's going to make, I think, for a really just great tandem here in Chicago, really a trio when you throw in Sanborn too.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun to watch. And I'm glad, Will, that, with this new regime, obviously, and just coaching staff, like the linebacker, like it just seems right that the Bears linebackers are a strength of their team, right? Even though this is a new age of football and everything's a passing league, for the Bears, like they've always had a strong history legacy at the linebacker position. So it's all right to have some of those old age beliefs and just how the team's always been be here in the new era. That because the Bears have their Mike linebacker, they have their Will linebacker, they have Jack Sanborn. So I think that's always just for me a plus growing up a Bears fan and always seeing that. And now this new age of linebackers can still be a strength and focal point of this team.
Right. I mean, we had Urlacher and Briggs, but they weren't alone. You had Hunter Hillemeyer to be like to round them out. Obviously, the Bears changed defenses to a 3-4 for the better part of the last almost decade until they went back to a 4-3. But you had Roquan Smith and Danny Trevathan. Was that Jarrell Freeman and Danny Trevathan for a season, right? Like, that just you need good linebackers in Chicago. It's in the DNA of this franchise, and it's good to have some back. And of course, we just aged ourselves by referencing the ones we did. I know others got to watch other great linebackers, and we're a little envious of you, but we're speaking from our experience here on the show. But all right, so we're looking at linebacker, the secondary, wide receiver, and running back. Justin Fields is somewhere, wagging his finger at us next, saying, "Quarterback, guys, quarterback."
No, that's a good point, Will. I like the quarterbacks room that they have right now, and PJ Walker is definitely a capable backup. And, Justin Fields, we all expect him to be the guy next season. I think for me, why I didn't include the quarterbacks, like, I think we just expect, like, Justin Fields to ascend, and he's, like, the guy. But collectively as a room, all the other guys, like, I think that's why I kept them, or I guess really Justin Fields out. But we all know quarterback is a strength because they have Justin Fields.
Do you know he leads the league in rushing yards per attempt since 2021?
Really? I did not know that.
When I was looking up these running back stats a bit ago for our guys, I was on StatMuse. Love the website, by the way. It's an amazing stats. It's just a great way to find different stats. But I was like, who leads the league in yards per carry since 2021? I was like, Justin Fields does. I was like, who led in 2022? I was like, of course, it was Justin Fields. So I had to specify, okay, running backs, please. Running backs, because it was Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, 1, 2. But again, we're expecting a lot of growth from Justin as a passer this year, and that's what's going to make him take that next step in this league to become, I think, recognized as one of the better passers and quarterbacks here. But that running ability too, you just can't, you can't omit that. It's going to be a part of his identity, whether he says he doesn't want it to be or not. But ideally, it's not the primary portion of his identity like it was last season. And again, if he supplements it, he's going to just get more effective, I think, per carry, which is really scary and really dangerous. All right, that does it for our first segment. We need to take a quick time out, and then we'll be right back with some more Bears discussion. And Nick, you're up first.
Yeah, if you haven't already, you guys, it's time to cut the cable and go to Fubo TV. 140 live channels of sports, shows, movies, news, whatever you like watching, Fubo's got you covered. You can stream live TV from your device. Any device, really. Everyone's got a cell phone, and you could do it on there, your laptop, your tablet, whatever else you could possibly use. Fubo's got you covered, and you can watch the most Chicago sports for the lowest price. No contracts, no hassle. Just sign up and start watching today. You can watch the Cubs, the White Sox, both playing later today on marquee NBC Sports Chicago with Fubo TV. And all you got to do, use a link in the description below to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro.
All right, you have to take on the sun this weekend for Memorial Day with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for that warm weather with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. They are an independent sunglasses company. They offer world-class product, and it's really just as good as any expensive pair I've ever worn. I'm still rocking my Shady Rays since I think I bought them in 2019. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. And somehow if you break these really durable shades or you end up losing them, that's probably most likely. For me, by the way, every single pair of sunglasses is backed by their lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break them, day 1, 10, 100, it doesn't matter. They will replace those sunglasses, no questions asked. So you can wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. And if you don't love your Shady Rays, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There really is no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. And right now, there is a Memorial Day sale going on. Right now, it is live. You can go to shadyrays.com and get 35% off all sunglasses. So go try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. All right, this is the CHGO Bears Podcast. Will DeWitt, Nicholas Moreano throwing it back here on a Friday. And we are now going to look at some ways the Bears can maybe improve or regress maybe this upcoming season, just looking at some different statistical categories that they either excelled in or didn't, and maybe finding the inverse this upcoming season. And I think, unfortunately, but fortunately, Nick, there's not a lot they did good last year that you can say, hey, maybe that's not going to carry over. But I do think you have one on your list, a couple of areas where the Bears did actually lead the league in some regards, and you're, I'm assuming, expecting some mild regression. I'm going to use the word mild.
Yeah, well, mild's a good word here, Will, and the stat that you're alluding to is the rushing yards and rushing attempts from last season. The Bears are first in rushing yards with 3,014 and second in rushing attempts, just behind the Falcons with 558. Now, that was a good number for the Bears. Obviously, they show that they can run the football. I do expect that number to regress, and there's a couple of reasons why. One, we were talking about Justin Fields and having over 1,000 rushing yards last season. I don't expect that number to be the same in 2023 because he's going to have more opportunities to pass the football and show that he's capable of doing that. So that's one reason why. But also, too, like I talked about it earlier, like Luke Getsy and Andrew Janocko want the passing offense to be more of a focal point. So I think the Bears they're not going to transition to being a pass-first team. They're just going to be more effective in it. So they don't have to be pigeonholed to only running the football. So I do think both these numbers come down, but that doesn't mean that they won't still be effective in both those areas in 2023. But they led the league last year because they kind of had to. So now this year it's not going to be a necessity, but they can use it as a complementary piece to their offense and their passing game.
See, we look at the talent in the running back room, and it can be argued it's better. I think it is improved, and we talked about that just a few moments ago. And then you look at the offensive line. A lot of reasons to say that they're going to be better this year, even in their run blocking. Nate Davis, I think, would be an improvement in the interior. Of course, you have Wright over there on the outside too now. So I don't know. It's one of those where obviously it's not going to be because, like you said, not because they're going to get worse at it. They're just not going to have to lean on it so damn much like they've had to last season. And ideally with DJ Moore, Justin Fields, and this offense growing and becoming more, I don't even want to say pass first. I wouldn't mind a balanced attack, but becoming more balanced this year regardless will just kind of skew that away from leading the league. But don't let that deter you like it's a setback. I think is a great way to keep in mind as we enter this upcoming year.
Yeah, no, that's a good way of looking at it. And again, if the Bears could be balanced, that's going to help them get more wins. I think there's a comment here. The Bears led the league in rushing, also had the least amount of wins. Not that there's exact correlation, but you do need to be a balanced offense, I think, to win football games.
I'll flip it to the defense, but I'm going to stick with the running game. Last year, the Bears had 31 touchdowns surrendered on the ground, which was dead last in the league. And something was telling me to go back to some Bears After Dark notes, and I forgot. I'm happy I forgot. I must have blacked it out on purpose. But that was the second most rushing touchdown surrender by defense all time, ever, for a single season, only behind the 1961 Raiders, who gave up more than the Bears did last year. Just to put it into context, how piss poor that run defense was last year, especially keeping teams out of the end zone on the ground. But we talked about these linebackers, and yes, they are going to improve coverage a ton and help this defense in terms of covering passes. And that middle of the field won't be as glaring of a hole as it was last year, but running defense too is going to get a lot better all the rookies that you drafted with Pickens. Of course, you have Dexter there too, and bring in DeMarcus Walker and Billings, who's literally a run stuffer. There's a lot of reasons to say, okay, this Bears run defense will be better. And particularly, I think, inside the 10, inside the 5, and in goal line situations, they're not going to be pushed around like they were last year. But there's too many times when I remember a play against the Packers specifically when they just did like a outside run, and it was like the floodgates opened up and guys were getting picked off left and right, and the back, I think it was Jones at the time, wasn't even touched on his way to the end zone. Daniel Jones himself, right, the quarterback for the Giants, that scramble of I was like a 20-yard out, just untouched into the end zone. I don't expect that to happen this season. So this is one where I can see them, we're not saying they can go from worst to first. I can see them going from worst last season to a top 10, potentially top 5 defense against the run this year and keeping teams out of the end zone. 31 last year. I'd be surprised if it's over 25, 20. 25 would still be a lot to me. Over 20 this upcoming season.
Yeah, the teams knew they can run on the Bears, and they did so. And they didn't until the Bears showed that they could stop them. The Bears opposing teams weren't going to do that. I remember being in that Giants game, like, they ran the quarterback keeper with Daniel Jones again and again until the Bears never figured it out. So I agree. That's definitely a stat that can be flipped in 2023. Another one, though, going back for me to the offense, actually, now that I look at it, all my stats are on the offensive side of the ball. We'll go with the receiving yards. The Bears ranked dead last in receiving yards last season, 2,598. Cole Kmet was your leading guy in that category. Darnell Mooney obviously got injured, but we expect the big jumps from Justin Fields. You have now DJ Moore. Like, this is a group that has enough talent to put up some numbers this season if all goes right. And maybe it takes a little bit of time in the beginning to get that chemistry, the timing, everything down. But there are playmakers in this room. That's okay to say. The Bears have playmakers as for pass catchers, and you can throw in a Robert Tonyan in that group as well for guys that will catch the football and put yards. And I think we'll see more of the yards after catch. That's what Justin Fields said he was working on to doing with his footwork. Like, you have the footwork down, you give guys better opportunities to get those yards after catch. I think we see more of that in 2023. So the 2,598 receiving yards that they finished with in 2022, I don't know if it's going to be a top 10 unit, but maybe like borderline that top 15. Maybe they're just outside of that, but it's not going to be in the bottom half of the league anymore. The Bears have, I think, too much talent to actually do that again. So that's not going to happen, and that's one that can easily see being flipped here.
Wow, that's also the same amount of yards the Bears passed for last year. Just when you look at it, passing yards, it's almost like it's the same stat, just categorized a little bit different. But that was still last in the league for passing yards last year. So whether you're looking at the receivers themselves, or the targets themselves, or just the quarterback play in general, 32nd, it's not going to be where the Bears are at when that final whistle blows next January. But even passing attempts, they were dead last year in passing attempts, 377. And if the Bears want any hope of actually being playoff contenders, they will need to turn that around. And really, I think most importantly, if Justin Fields is the guy that everyone expects him to be this season and beyond, he's going to have to carry a little bit more of the weight on his shoulders and as a passer. And by doing so and leaning on him more, I just think by default and naturally that number is going to have to rise. Yeah,
it definitely is. Well, we talked about the attempts. What should Justin Fields be averaging? Like, if he's in the low, I think he had over 320 or something, somewhere around there, but it's 400s, the low 400s. He could be definitely in that range for passing attempts. So that's definitely going to go up in 2023.
Yeah, it was one of those. I think I have 377 passing attempts here for him. Or I guess that was as a team. So with him being out for a tiny bit last year, that would definitely change that. But as a team, still, the Bears only had 377. And I mean, the top teams, you're looking at the Bucks, the Chargers, the Vikings, 751, 711, 672, 664. That's double. what the Bears were doing. And that's why, again, going back to some of the stats we talked about earlier, the running game, that's why we're going to have to try to find some middle ground here, and why naturally you're going to see those numbers on the ground dip a bit, just because the Bears are so heavily skewed as a running team and not really passing whatsoever.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. My last stat here that I think the Bears can flip in 2023. The Bears are 31st in the league in fourth quarter points scored with 3.6 on average. And remember during that stretch where Justin Fields was lighting the NFL on fire, it was a lot of his teammates failing to execute down the stretch of football games that didn't allow the Bears to, win more games. Worked out in the end, getting the number 1 overall pick, but now there's more talent here, Will. There's more talent on the offensive side. There's more talent on the defensive side to give the offense more opportunities. So that 3 points average, being 31st in the league in fourth quarter points scored, I don't think that's going to be the case in 2023. And I think the Bears are going to be competitive in a lot of these football games after looking at the schedule. Like you look at maybe the one game that maybe could get out of hand, but we'll see, is like Kansas City. That's like the pinnacle, the top opponent, right, on the schedule. But still, like that could still be a competitive game. I just think the Bears have more talent now that's not going to be the case where they're not able to score points. The defense isn't able to stop anybody. And now we're seeing a more well-rounded football team that can score more, especially when it counts in late situations in games.
Gosh, I mean, only 3 points, give or take, in the fourth quarter. On average, a field goal, field goal. That's it. Man, like that frustrates me, just kind of like reminiscing and like feeling that again, because how many times were they, playing from behind? How many times they actually did, like you said, that one stretch, carry a lead into that second half, into that fourth quarter, and let it slip away from the inability to execute. And it does go down one more level. You mentioned talent. Coaching, though, play calling and coaching is going to have to really step up if they really want to turn that around, because that's when the good coaches get separated from the great coaches in this league, is in that final quarter. Same thing with players, but it is also on the coaches, because that's when halftime adjustments are taken, and then you adjust again from there. You have to make sure teams don't catch up to you when you're on offense. So I think that's a great one, Nick, that they absolutely must turn around here without question. A couple for the defense here. I think third down defense can be drastically improved. They were dead last year in the league, averaging a conversion rate allowed about 49%. They're literally like flipping a coin, and they were converting every single time, a 50-50 chance. Like that's not going to cut it this year. And we talked about really all three levels of the defense on this show: the defensive line, the linebackers, the secondary. There's all three combined. Gives me a lot of hope that they can get off the field. And on top of that, inside the red zone, they were 28th on defense in the red zone last year, allowing touchdowns on 65% of those trips. Again, that should be cut down drastically with the better cover backers, that condensed area of the field, and better inside the 10, inside the 5 run defense that I mentioned too. And it's all correlates, Nick, to less points per game allowed. 27.2 points per game surrendered last year, dead last in the NFL. This is one where I can see them being in the top half of the league, just with the talent that they brought in. Allen Williams getting a little bit more comfortable here running this Bears defense. I feel really good about the Bears' chances of flipping the script here really in all three of my key phases: points per game, red zone defense, and third down.
Yeah, well, no, I like that a lot. And there's going to be people who will watch this, Will, and be like, wow, look at these guys are saying that they're going to flip the script on a lot of these stats where they were last in the league. Like, teams don't just stay at the bottom and just not improve after all the, additions the Bears have made. Like, they're going to improve in these categories. Like, it's going to happen. And I'm going to love it when the comments come flowing. Oh, these guys are, just drinking the Kool-Aid, all this stuff. But look, there have been major improvements on this team. They're going to improve in a lot of these categories. And you can just say you heard it here first on the CHGO Bears podcast. And maybe next time, you'll be better, and just continue watching, subscribe, like, and you'll just know where you're going to get your Bears content. But I can already foresee it. And maybe even the next section of our show will even, enforce like the overreactions that people will have. But the Bears are going to get better. Just be ready for it.
You're telling me that people are going to overreact to our overreactions?
Yes. Big
okay.
Time.
Good to know. I'm going to take a deep breath before we get to that segment. I actually do have one more stat, Nick, that we didn't touch on, but I think both of us can have a quick convo on it. Sacks allowed. The Bears they gave up the most sacks in the league last season at 55. That was tied for the most surrendered on offense. Like, this is one too where I think the nature of Justin's game, even with an improved offensive line, I feel like he's going to get sacked more than maybe we would like. But I don't think it should be the most in the NFL. I don't think they should be giving up nearly 60 sacks for the season. This is another one where if they can get top 20, top half, I think I would be pretty happy with. I think the pass protection itself will be solid. If he does, and by he, I mean Justin, adhere to his word where he's trying to get that ball out quicker and allow his playmakers to make plays, that will really cut this number down. But he's like that slinger mentality, always wanting to extend the play if something's breaking down, and just that style of play is going to lead to more sacks than some other styles of quarterbacking.
No doubt about it, Will. And I like this comment from Click here. Having the same voice in his ear will help a ton. Yeah, having that continuity with the play caller is going to be big for Justin Fields, and that 3-step quick game. It's all about timing and footwork. And with Justin Fields now being in the second year of this offense, we're going to see him make quicker, more decisive decisions. That's his big thing that he's wanted to work on, that he has been working on. And if he shows he could do that, those sack numbers will drop. And the big thing with the quick passing game, if you drop back past that third step, you are really putting your offensive line in a bad place, because they are dropping back, factoring in where you're going to be at as a quarterback in your drop back. So if he figures that out, gets that internal clock going a little bit quicker, knows how to be decisive, watch out for Justin Fields.
I mean, how many times did we sit in that press box last year, Nick, and watch other offenses operate exactly like that, where the Bears defensive line, they couldn't carry any pressure because they were getting the ball out so damn quick. It was whether it's a 3-step drop from center, whether it's like a 2-step drop right out of the gun, where it's just boom, boom, out. Like you get your hitch step and you fire it out there, and it's just quick, easy catch. The receiver regained 2 or 3 yards afterwards. The next thing you know, they're moving the chains, doing it again, and it's really demoralizing for a defense when that happens. It really wears them down pretty quickly. So there's going to be a lot of benefits, not just the sack numbers going down. And actually, one more thing we can say too, if you cut the sack number down a lot, you're going to be in a lot more favorable third down situations, or situation on second. You'll be playing ahead of the sticks. And then it'll help them move those chains more consistently instead of playing in those second and longs, third and longs. And, even though the Bears ran that a lot last year, they still somehow ran the ball more than other teams, which shows you something. But again, when you're in those obvious passing downs and distances, it's real easy to tee up and play, a nice shell coverage to keep them in front and then get that offense off the field. So there's so many things that the trickle effect of just even cutting down sacks can have on the rest of the offense, the offensive strategy, and the overall success of the entire team.
All makes sense, Will. It all makes sense. It's going to all come to fruition in 2023, and I cannot wait.
That sounds good. I'm glad you can't wait. I can't either. We just have a long summer between now and then, but we always say it's long, but then we blink and it's training camp time. Where did the summer go?
Every single time. So maybe wait a little bit. We can enjoy a little bit of our summer and then get right back into football.
I can't wait, though, just like you. All right, let's take our final timeout of the show, and then we'll get into our overreactions from Bears OTAs. Can't wait to see how everyone reacts to those overreactions. But, Nick, you're up first from a message from Goose.
Yes, CHGO is supported by Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer since 1988. So many great options like the Blackhawks Pale Ale, Tropical Beer Hug, 312 Wheat Ale, and Full Pocket Pills. Grab an ultra fresh, brewery exclusive beers at Goose Island Original Brew House on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown. Goose Island Beer Company, as you know, Chicago's beer. And now, Will, we're going to go from beer to the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, which is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve, helping manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future.
Yeah, ComEd, they offer a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across the territory. ComEd also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities like for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes.
Well, there was a lot of stuff in there. So how exactly does that all work?
Sure, let's take a second and let's explain it. First, an authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually, and they last approximately 2 hours. Within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will then receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they can start working on immediately. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, project cost, potential incentives, and simple payback. So if you own a business, definitely don't wait. Get started saving money and energy today. And for energy saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to comed.com/poweringbiz.
Will, did you say comed.com/poweringbiz?
Yeah, I know your AirPods broke and you're running on your backup headphones today, so they're probably a little fuzzy, but that's exactly what I said. ComEd.com/poweringbiz. So go ahead and schedule it today.
He's not lying. These are now broken. Well, they just don't hold a charge. I don't know if they're broken. They better be fixed. It's only a few months old, so.
So hold on. I have some questions, but I'm going to hold on them right now because I want to share these overreactions. And of course, CHGO Bears off-season coverage is brought to you by the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program. Learn more at comed.com/powering biz. And all right, so you guys are at OTAs all week and you got to watch firsthand. And of course, I'll lean on you a little bit here, but I have some overreactions just based off of the news that has trickled out from my perspective. Like the fact that obviously Jalen Johnson's time in Chicago, Nick, it's just running short. Like there's no middle ground. He's just done, obviously. He's just going to hold out and end up getting traded. No contract extension. Jalen Johnson, that's why they drafted Tyreek Stevenson. They already had a replacement in the works, and we're just going to move on from JJ, I guess.
Connecting the breadcrumbs, right, Will? Like not sure enough to... Yeah, no, I don't think that's the case, but it's... Yeah, actually really quickly on this, like I've seen some people maybe actually overreact to this, and this is what they actually think about the situation. But imagine like Jalen Johnson, you don't think he's communicated this to his teammates? Like, hey, I'm not going to be there. Do your thing out there in OTAs. Like, you think he's just ghosting them? No, like, of course he's going to talk to his guys and his teammates and let them know, not going to be there. There's reasons why for this. And so they have an understanding. There's communication being had. I feel like people are just overlooking that. From Jalen Johnson's perspective, he's just not ghosting everybody. But, if you want to look at the other way, yeah, he's out.
Well, overreactions. That's what we're going for
true,
here.
True.
Someone said that's not sarcasm. It was sarcasm. You gotta. I need like we need like a sarcasm meter here on the show. And if I wag my finger fast enough, you can see my green screen behind me. So there's my meter.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Nick, what's your big overreaction from this week?
Yeah, overreaction, and also maybe reasonable, but I was watching DeMarcus Walker. You brought his name up earlier, and I kind of wanted to leave him out for this discussion. Just seeing him move in the individual drills, seeing him completely blow by the left guard in one of the team drills who would have destroyed PJ Walker had this been an actual game-like setting. He had a really good positive impression on me. I think he's going to be our team leader in sacks this season. And again, overreaction, OTA practice, but he just showed me a lot. And I've always been someone that if they just watch how they practice, that could be a good sign of what is to come later on in the season. But DeMarcus Walker will lead the team in sacks this season. He also has that versatility to line up inside, can line up outside, did that for the Titans last year. But based off of one OTA practice, that's my overreaction right now. DeMarcus Walker is your Bears leading sack leader.
I need to know, though, is he leading a team that can't get a lot of sacks because they didn't address the edge position, or is he leading the team in sacks that it's a team that, racks up more sacks than a lot of outsiders may think right now? I just want to put this overreaction into maybe an overreacting context.
It's a good question. Well, look, so in Matt Eberflus's defenses, even going back to Indy, only one player's ever had double-digit sacks in 4 years there. So this may be he's leading the team in sacks for a group that has, a fair amount, 5 to 6, 6 to 7. So he's like at that 9.5 range for the leader in sacks. Not the number that I think Bears fans want, but the number that could be realistic.
Fair enough. I'll stick on defense, and I think just by everything that I've heard from OTAs and everything I just know about this player coming in and just hearing positive, glowing reviews already coming through puts a huge smile on my face. And of course, I'm not overreacting when I say that Tremaine Edmonds is going to lead the league in total tackles this season, Nick. It's just going to happen. I'm sorry, TJ Edwards. I know you've had more over the last 2 years, but it's Edmonds' time to shine. I do believe he's going to enter, as I said earlier in the episode, his prime in Chicago. Again, 5 years of NFL experience, only 24 years old. He was 19 when he was drafted. He was a baby, and now he's a grown-ass man playing in Chicago, and he's going to do some amazing things, including leading the league in tackles this season. Sorry to Edwards, and also sorry to Roquan Smith, but also not sorry.
I love that. Tremaine Edmonds, a guy, like, they were practicing when he had that deep interception, like it's far away. It's almost 100 yards away from us being in the opposite end zone. He stands out. He clearly stands out because of how physically big he is and what he's capable of doing. So Tremaine Edmonds, do it. Go lead the league in tackles this season. For me, what we saw early and often in OTAs was the Fields to DJ Moore connection. They kept on connecting. They connected in 7-on-7, connected in team drills. Go ahead, Will.
I was going to say, I know you. We've been podcasting for a long time. So I have something about DJ Moore on my list, who obviously we have something about DJ Moore. So let's find out who is overreacting more. Nick, where's DJ Moore? Like, what's your overreaction? And then I'll share mine. And I'm not going to change mine at all. No matter what you say, I'll read exactly what's in my notes.
I'm going to say already now you have the more overreaction, but here's where mine lies in. We also saw Justin Fields connect to DJ Moore on maybe a 60-yard bomb down the right sideline. It was a beautifully thrown pass that, Adam and I, we couldn't even see the full completion because you have to look through these offensive linemen. It was a bad position, but he connected with DJ Moore. The Bears finished last season with 31 plays that went for 20 or more receiving yards. They weren't in the top half of the league in terms of creating those explosive plays through the air. My overreaction is that DJ Moore, Justin Fields are going to flip that script, obviously with the complimentary of the other guys, and go from being a bottom half of the leagues in explosive plays to top 10 through the air because of that connection, because of the continuity in the offense. The Bears are going to be able to move the ball downfield, and it doesn't have to be just the 40-yard bombs. Like, just got to get 21 yards to be registered, 20 yards to be registered as an explosive play. So yards after catch, DJ Moore is going to be a big part of that. Justin Fields already showing that connection OTA. So that's my overreaction. But Will, I feel like you're about to explode that one out of the ballpark right now.
Yeah, speaking of explosive plays, here's an explosive overreaction. What about DJ Moore being a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL this season in terms of receptions and yards? That connection on Tuesday, just based off of what you guys were talking about, what I saw, just was, for it to be like their first day out there and they're throwing slinging the rock around like that gets me excited. And they're just now, like, they're in the infancy of starting this chemistry building. And so give us through July. Let's get through August and let's get to September. And then let's see where this thing is at. Because if they have those explosive plays, then my overreaction becomes a little bit more possible. But we all know, like, at least around the league, DJ Moore is like a tier 1B, maybe a tier 1C kind of receiver in the NFL. Maybe he can, change that narrative now, being paired with a quarterback like Justin, where he's not having to play with, like the Bears backup now, PJ Walker out there on some Sundays. But yeah, that's my overreaction for Moore. And then I have one more at wide receiver, which is, all the talk I heard from Fields and Matt Eberflus about another receiver in Chase Claypool makes me have the overreaction of, what? he's going to be the wide receiver 2 this season in overall production for Chicago. Darnell Mooney slides to number 3, and we have Chase Claypool taking the reins at wide receiver 2 for the Bears in overall production, right behind DJ Moore. Now, am I overreacting? Absolutely I am, but it's May 26th, and I'm allowed to do so.
Yeah, there should be like a disclaimer that pops up on screens and like even like a automated message like this is a overreaction segment. Whatever is said, it is May 26th. But don't discredit it, but it is an overreaction segment. So that's what's happened. That's our overreactions after the first OTA practice. Hey, there's a second OTA practice next Wednesday, so tune in to see what we say next time. But that's interesting though, Will. What if Chase Claypool becomes a number 2 receiver over Darnell Mooney? Like, I mean, I think that's a good situation to have, right? Or Bears fans going to feel like,
depends on if it's because Mooney takes a dip, or if it's Claypool, as how I worded my overreaction, like taking the reins and just taking charge and becoming that receiver you saw in Pittsburgh, who was like that, back-to-back 1,000-yard season guy. Then yeah, I think that's an okay situation. Now, money-wise, you're going to be in a really sticky spot. Like, who do you invest in? Because both guys are going to need some contracts here coming up pretty soon. I think Claypool first and then Mooney, but of course, we've heard that maybe Mooney's looking for that extension already. He's not worried about the money, but it's kind of in the works if they want to see him run, if I remember our talks last week. But yeah, it's not a bad spot to be in. It's just going to make Ryan Poles' job difficult, but in a good way. Like, it's a good thing to have to decide between some good talent in-house as opposed to always having to bring in because your resources are exhausted already. But man, I love doing some overreactions here in May. Let's hop into some supers and let's bounce so Lawrence can do his Blackhawks show.
True.
If I can call him up, we can do them in order. We're going to go in order. I love it. Chris says, can CHGO collab with Tom Grossi? He's funny AF and the most famous Green Bay fan on YouTube, and he's doing 30 stadiums and 30 days for charity. By the way, that's awesome. Tom's really a great guy. He's going to be in Chicago 6-1. So that's next week. We collabed with him on our podcast. I think the 2018 season. We had him for Meet the Opponent. And then we hopped on his channel here too. And he had that nice set. Threw on, and for a guy who covers the Packers, like, he's one of the few that I think does it respectfully, even though he loves to throw in his comedy inside of it too. But that would be interesting. Thanks for the heads up on this, Chris, and we'll definitely look into that.
I like that. I almost forgot about that. Well, thanks for bringing that out. I'm like, oh yeah, that's why that name sounds familiar. Okay, so maybe we can make something happen. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure. Jason says, who gets more tackles, Roquan or Edmonds/Edwards? Now, I don't know if it's Roquan or Edmonds or Edwards, or if it's Roquan or Edmonds and Edwards. Definitely it's Edmonds and Edwards. Like, if it's an and, it's in that direction here in the Bears' favor. But if it's Roquan or one or the other, I think that can be it's up for debate, and that's gonna be a tough one.
That is up for debate. I'm thinking, is it Patrick Queen, the other linebacker opposite of Roquan Smith in Baltimore? I'm just trying to think like
I know he's there. I don't pay attention to Baltimore's defense so much to know all the ins and outs.
But the thing is, like, Edmonds and Edwards are going to be competing for tackles. Like, those guys are going to be high up there. So if maybe their numbers are more even but down, like maybe Roquan does end up actually having more tackles in the end here. So even if that's the case, it doesn't mean that, the Bears messed up. It was a bad signing, any of that stuff. But it just, you do have two productive linebackers right there. Throw in Jack Sanborn when they're in base defense, that they're going to be competing.
All right. Moving on to D-Man Shy. What's up, fellas? Love the show. Hey, Nick, you can read this one because it was you on the show.
Yep. What's up, fellas? Love the show. Hey, Nick, why didn't y'all give Hogue more crap for that 5-incher comment Tuesday? That was crazy. That was hilarious. And like, we were talking about shorts, and I don't know. They're like normal size shorts that I usually wear. Adam always thinks they're like shorter shorts. And like, yeah, I have like the 7-inch long and then the 5-inch long shorts. And he's like, you have a 5-incher? And then that goes through the mind. And then I immediately was thinking of Justin Fields' press conference when I forgot exactly what he said, but he's like, pause. That's what came into my head. And then we just went to our next scheduled segment. But it was a funny thing. I said we should clip it, and
we did.
Lawrence
actually.
Did. We did.
In fact, here it is.
You got a 5-incher?
That's
coming back.
That's gonna be clipped.
Okay.
and that it was. Didn't dispute it. Still hasn't disputed it. So it's just a 5-incher, Nick.
I guess so. Just a 5-incher. That was great work by Law too. Right then and there, right after the podcast, like the clip was up or the clip was ready to go. So great stuff there.
He has a great eye and ear. If there's gold, he's not going to take more than a second to mine it. So we can definitely leverage it. Good stuff, Law. Last super chat, then we're going to bounce here for today from Alan. One CHGO member gets to spend the season protecting JF1. Who's it going to be? They're saying Braggs. I mean, he does build brick walls. I don't think
you want that. You don't want any of us to be protecting Justin Fields. We want Justin Fields to be upright, to be good. No, not going to happen.
No. Yeah, see, these noodle arms ain't stopping nobody. I got the length, though, so if they want the length on the outside, I got you. I got you there, but the strength, I may be lacking, but I think if he had to choose, I think, Alan, you made the correct decision there. So A+ scouting.
If Bears fans were complaining about Peter Skoronski's arms, like, for me, like that's not going to be good for anybody. So nobody wants that.
That's what he meant. You have a couple 5-inchers. All right, there it is. 5-inch arms.
So, 5-inch arms.
I'm trying to help you. I'm really trying to help you, but it's just not working. All right, any final thoughts? And then we're going to wrap up.
No, just everybody enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Thank you for hanging out with us on this Friday. As you know, we will not have a show on Monday, but we'll have plenty of Bears content. Bears OTAs will be on Wednesday next week, and you'll have your recap, and we'll definitely have more Bears coverage throughout the rest of the summer. So don't go anywhere, and make sure to hit that like button before you head out of today's show.
I mean, definitely go on trips, do what you need, but we're on YouTube, and we're on every podcast player out there, so you can bring us with you, but enjoy your weekend for sure. As we talked about at the top of the show, no Bears content on Monday. We have the day off with doing 6 episodes this week, but there are other shows still going on our channel on Monday. Thanks, Lawrence, for all that information at the top of the show. But I had a great time doing some overreactions, looking at Bears positional groups, and of course, finding ways for them to flip the script here in 2023. Hope you enjoyed the show too, but we'll see you next time. And of course, Bear down, Chicago.